What we're going to be doing today is just going to be what she said, just talking through some of our progress that we've made over the past couple of years. This has been a long effort, and it's been well worth the work that we've put into it. The agenda today, we're going to start off with just Rob kind of explaining what LEAP is and that LEAP initiative. Then I will jump in and talk about the stakeholders that we had in the system and how we got their buy-in. I will also be doing just a short presentation on what Project Management 101 is, and then along with our delivering the product. Then we'll start off with some success stories that we've had so far, and then we'll be talking about what we're going to be doing next. Yep. On the right one? On the right one?
Sure. All right. Hello, I'm Rob. Is everybody awake still? It's early. It's just had lunch. I'll try to stay awake as well. So what is LEAP? LEAP's an acronym, Lean Efforts and Automated Processes. So the county knew, as I'll get into in the next slides a little, that we needed to do something different. Something had to be done with the way things were going. So there's two different aspects of what this initiative came to be. One is lean effort, so using lean methodology. It's a respected, tried, true. It's a way to increase the value that we deliver for the processes. It's a way to identify and remove waste out of what's being done in the work we do. So Kaizen or Kaizen events, Kaizen blitzes, you may have heard, means good change or change for the better. Basically, we take processes apart and find a way with the team to put it back together the best way so the next iteration, the future state is even better. So combining that with automated processes. So opportunity for increasing the efficiency utilizing ECM technology. So that's where Laserfiche came into play. Using the integration into different process solutions. So looking at paper filing, shuffling, handling papers to electronic options. So what are some different opportunities there? It was a possible means of operating in a paperless environment. So eliminating paper where we could, using forms, using automation of manual steps, going electronic with workflow. So really combining the different aspects of Laserfiche into this initiative. So that's kind of what LEAP is, that acronym, that initiative we've been undertaking. So why LEAP? Why did the county need to do this? So the new normal, according to the state demographer and the economist, we're going to have shortages of staff, funding. The money, the personnel that we need to do is not going to be there. With the economic times we've had over the last 5 years, 8 years more, we need to find a better way to do things. So in order to provide the same standard of service that the citizens are used to, that the county is used to providing, we had to be 5% more productive with 5% less funding. So do more with less. How many people are hearing that where you're at, your places of employment, your counties, your cities? So the graph below just shows a little bit of an example of we had to do more with less. So going from 2003, I think it was 131 citizens were covered per employee for just the governmental services that we supported. In 2012, we were at 162 per employee, so trying to do a lot more. We couldn't do it, so we needed to find a different way. And that's where Dave will come back up and he'll talk about the stakeholder buy-in. So how did we get support for doing this initiative?
By receiving the stakeholder buy-in, we'll be able to see the following benefits. First, better values for our citizens. This is through increased response times by social workers and other departments, reduced wait times for home placements. You'll see an example of that at the end when we talk about our success stories. Appointments will be faster, more organized, less pressure to raise taxes. And of course, who likes to raise taxes, right? Increased efficiency and productivity. Improved work morale through less workload and from being listened to. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we had at Olmsted County was our employees felt that they had all these great ideas, but nobody was listening to what they had to say. This gives them that voice. When the LEAP team, the continuous improvement team goes into a Kaizen event, they're listening. They're hearing what the people, the doers that are doing the work, have to say about their job and how can we improve that? What can we do better? An ability to be more responsive to the needs of our customers, whether internal or external. More opportunities to provide exceptional service, higher quality outcomes for people supported. Improvements identified by staff, which creates a sense of buy-in from the beginning. Again, we're looking for the staff to tell us where can we improve so that we have that buy-in right from the beginning. That way, it's easier to implement. Again, we're looking at action-based, common sense solutions. And then, of course, anything that we can do to better communication is always a good thing. So the keys to gaining that support. Number one, we want to make sure we understand the needs of each business unit. So I have a team of business analysts that are assigned to the different departments. And one of the things that we worked on when we were first initiating this initiative was trying to understand what our customers wanted, what they needed. So many times in IT, we're so focused on finding putting the solution in place without really fully understanding what the solution really needs to be. So what Rob's team does is they go out and they ask the why questions. Well, why do we need to improve this? You know, what's wrong? What's wrong with the process? And then with his team understanding the why comes the what. My team comes in and fully flushes out the what, and then we work on the how. Finding commonalities between the departments. Many of the department directors had begun to attend classes on LEAP processing. Again, this was another big win for us because they were going out on their own and learning what Lean had to offer, what a Kaizen event was, and taking these classes so that at a department department head level, they understood what they needed. This drove them to finding commonalities between the different departments, seeing, okay, where can we improve? What can we do better? And then finally, we want to make sure that we're building a solution that satisfies those common needs. So who are our stakeholders? Well, first off, the citizens of Olmsted County and Rochester, Minnesota. Those are definitely our stakeholders. Our employees. But the three that we really had to win over and work with were the department directors. Nothing was going to happen unless they were all in on it and they were all involved in it. The county administrator, he wasn't going to take it to the Board of Commissioners unless he fully understood it and bought into it. And then, of course, the Board of Commissioners themselves, making sure that they understood the process, why this was important, and what the value was coming out of it. So what they did was they had basically a service level agreement that they wrote up and they all signed. And in fact, not only did all 12 departments sign, but right here is Chuck, our court administrator from the state courts, because we're a district court in Olmsted County. And he himself signed it as well. So we had buy-in from all 12 counties and the state district courts. That's what makes this so powerful, because it wasn't just the IT director saying, hey, I got this new toy that I want to play with and I want to be able to go out there and do all this fun stuff. No, it started at the base level with the directors within the departments coming to IT saying, we need your help to help implement this. Once we had the buy-in from the directors, we went to the Board of Commissioners, and they allowed us to use reserve funds to pay for this initiative. Shortly, you'll see benefits of our implementation, but first let me show you the project management process that we used to do this and our other implementations. So first off, we use PMBOK, which is Project Management Book of Knowledge. It's a pretty standard framework for doing project management. Everything flows through the PMO, our portfolio management. And then within, sorry about the colors here, it might be kind of hard for you to see, but the base idea behind PMBOK is you have a concept and you create that portfolio, the portfolio item, so you can track it. You have a initiation process. Basically, you score it, you create a charter for that particular project. You plan it, which means you're filling out the scope, the task lists, those kind of things. And then you have the execution of the actual implementation of the project. And in that case, you're working on your statuses and keeping everybody up to date. Finally, you close it and you keep track of your actuals and your metrics. Throughout this, you're constantly doing monitoring and control along the way throughout this process. So again, something very, very simple. This is a standard framework within project management, but this is a key to what we do. Everything has a process, and when we don't follow this process, that's when we have problems. That's when we shoot ourselves in the foot, as they say. Each one of our projects has a different phase. Now, not all of them go through every single phase. Depends on the size of the project. Some of them might only go through the first phase and never see any of the other phases, and I'll explain that here in a second. So we have exploration. So exploration basically gets you your assessment. Is this a viable project that we want to do? We start building the team, getting our SMEs, our subject matter experts together. We start working on the current process, and what are we doing today, and where is it today, and where do we want to be? We build our goals and our objectives for the particular project, and of course we do some problem analysis in order to find a root cause. Now sometimes a project will be, and out of each one of these projects, the resulting deliverable is a charter. So for example, in the exploration charter, or exploration phase, the design charter would be the final result. So we might get into this and we might say, you know what, really this doesn't make sense for us to continue on. We've only spent $3,000 or $4,000 to do maybe a deep dive into this product or this service, and we find that isn't going to fit our needs, or it's too expensive to implement, so that's where it ends. Other times, it moves on into the design phase. In the design phase, we're looking for the approval of the phase, basically looking for our budgetary approval. We're starting to talk to our solution developers and looking for a solution. We start verifying the design, looking at process change implementation. What can we do to make things better with maybe not even doing the full implementation of the whole project? What can we change without writing some code? And then we have post-implementation review. The final phase is implementation. Here you're doing, again, phase approval, because again, you need to have the approval of that dollar amount, saying that yes, we're ready to move on and go through that phase. You have, again, solution development that you're working on. So a lot of the same pieces of the phase that are in design or inside implementation. It's just, again, it's deeper dive into each level of the project. A perfect example of this is a project that we're in the process of doing with Infolinks. What we did was we had and I'll bring up that little piece there. Rob's team met with the county attorney, and they did a Kaizen event on their existing paper records. And, you know, what are we going to do with all these paper records that are sitting there in the sink room? And the reason why it's called the sink room is because it has a sink in it. So, filled with papers. And so they came up with, you know, one of the things that we can do is use Laserfiche to integrate with Infolinks, and we can use that as a solution. Well, so for the exploration was the Kaizen event. Then my team took it over for the design and the implementation. And at this point, right now, we're just getting the final approval, this phase approval for the dollars to spend, and hopefully we'll be able to start that next month, and we'll be able to get that implemented. But that's an example of where we started in exploration, we went to design and implementation. So each project phase along the way. So now on to some of our success stories. Probably the biggest one that really hit home for us was due to the Affordable Care Act, the Community Services, Family and Support and Assistance Department needed us to find a way to take that new normal, that doing 5% more or 5% less, okay, and get the job done. With the Affordable Care Act, it was took place or hit everybody's doors on October of last year. We were seeing a caseload increase of about 30%. So the solution was to implement Laserfiche in conjunction with a human services software interface, and it allowed us to basically increase our the workload for our case workers, okay, without increasing FTEs. So we were able to go from May of 13 of 224 cases per FTE, and we're projecting that in June of this year we're going to have 273 cases per FTE, and we're going to be able to avoid hiring basically 12 new people just by implementing Laserfiche and using a third-party application over the top of it in order to maintain it. So a 5-year savings in resources and reimbursement. Olmsted County saved $1.5 million. State and federal savings, $2.6 million. So not a bad return on investment when you figure that we started this project in June of 2013 and we had it deployed by October 1 of 2013. So not a bad return on investment. Rob's up with his next success stories.
All right, before we jump into that next part, we've had a little more time after lunch. Everybody still with us? Okay. Yes, Joe, go ahead. I woke up in time, so. One thing I want to mention here is this part Dave talked about, the solution was implemented in conjunction with a human services software interface, basically because of the short timing, as he said. Really, we were starting this project in June, in the middle or early parts of 2013 with a set deadline for going live. We didn't have time to create everything in Laserfiche to build it from there, so we worked with another partner to put the two systems together. So just clarifying that a little bit, this is something I know that we're both very passionate about, this initiative, what we can do, what we're able to do, how we can affect the lives of the citizens, the employees, the people that really rely on us. The thing that I struggle with a lot of times in doing a class like this or a session like this is trying to condense all that, what we've done, what we're trying to do, and everything else into a quick 1-hour session or less so we can have time for question and answers. I kind of liken it to the movie Titanic. Who's seen the movie Titanic? The condensed version is they hit some ice and they sink. Do you get the full benefit of watching the movie from that? No. Watch the movie. It's not too bad. I cried. But we're going to continue on to try to give you a little bit of what we're doing and what the passion is. So this is one example that we talked about where straight system, bringing the system in, not using the team, the Kaizen process, not using Lean to work with the staff and really try to improve things right away. This is straight Laserfiche doing what they do and getting return on what we're doing. This next example is kind of a mix of using Lean tools to understand and break down the process. And how we do that with the Kaizen event is we work with the manager, the leadership in the area. So this one was with the county attorney's office, working with the county attorney to say, what is this process that is broken? Well, their problem is the litigation hold process. So when the county's going to be sued or is being sued, to the time that happens, to the time the lawsuit is released or dismissed, they have a process of some different things happening. So right now it's a manual process. So, okay, we're going to be sued. I got to talk to somebody and try to remember to email all the right people to notify them to hold their emails and not delete stuff. And then I got to make sure I contact IT so that they can go out and do web searches or search the different terms and different things like that. And it was all manual based on a few different people remembering to notify people. And these things can go on for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And they have to remember every so often to send out that email to say, hey, don't forget, don't be deleting things because we're still in this lawsuit potentially, right? So we went in and worked with the county attorney's office. We worked with the county attorney and the leadership in that area and say, okay, what is your process? What are we going to do? And the part that I love the most about doing Kaizen events, and this part of it is, we work with the high-level management team to say, this is what we want to do. Who are the experts? Who are the people doing the work each day that actually know it? Not me because I used to do it 5 years ago or 10 years ago and I think I have a good idea, but right now the people doing the work. And then we put them into a room. We leave the management out of it. We give them updates so they know what's going on, but the people doing the work are locked in a room for 3 days or 5 days to say, let's dig into this process. Help me understand every aspect of it. From the time we may, as the scope says, from the time that a lawsuit is pending or potentially could happen. Somebody slipped and fell into jail or something like that, to the time it's done. So they came in and said, we have some goals. So our goals are, we want to automate the communication and tracking information. So we don't want to try to remember to send out emails. We want to be able to do that systematically. And we want to be able to track that stuff. We want to be able to sync the storage and filing of the emails we find, the documentation, everything we find. Right now it's on a shared drive, or it's on this person's hard drive, or it's on the flash drive that somebody forgot to transfer to somebody else, or it's in paper files that we also have to back up everything we've already scanned in just in case because we're not sure. And we want to leverage technology. We want to be more efficient in how we're doing these things, right? So that's our goals. The solution after doing this Kaizen event and working with the people involved and then working with, we're very lucky with the LEAP initiative to have a couple of workflow analysts, as they're titled. Basically, it's people that know Laserfiche. That's their job. To come in and say, hey, you know what, here's what we want to do, here's what we want to build, and they figure out how to do it and make that happen. They're sitting back there. They might not like to be pointed out, but wave, guys. There they are. So when I talk about this solution, it's showcasing what they've done. Everything that goes into this, all the work, all the stuff that working with, Dave's staff too, who is involved in the process and what happens. So the solution built within Laserfiche was to automate the sending and tracking of those notices. That initial notice to say, hey, this litigation is going on, a reminder, and then the release to say, hey, this one's done. If we have time at the end, I have more details on actually showing what that solution looks like that they built and how it works. That if we have time, we can go through that a little more detail. Another part was it provides an improved means to store, share, and retrieve the documentation so they can search it. They know where it's at. They can store it. There's records retention on there. And then the ability to run reports across the cases so they know what's pending, what's open, what's in records retention, what's, where things are at for status. So the solution was built using forms, workflow, records management, and different tools within Laserfiche. Looking at the current state metrics. So when we sat in the room and said, okay, tell us how you do this process right now. How does it look? Let's break it down and understand it. It took, across multiple resources within the county attorney's office, within IT, somebody from Dave's team as well. It took an average of 1,524 minutes of actual work time doing something in the process, working on a task, right? The cost, so staff time plus fringe, benefits, salary, whatever that may be, for those different resources comes out to be just about $1,400 for each of these litigation holds. The wait time in days, 9.63 days, where they would call somebody up and say, hey, I gotta come search your computer. Okay, great, I'll be there in 3 days because that person's not available or they can't get the time out there. So now think of a lawsuit situation. Timing is a little bit important with these, right? The actual number of process steps in the middle there. So how many times somebody is doing something? 29. Storage or filing steps. So what was happening a lot of times is somebody was taking a zip drive or a thumb drive out to a computer, plugging it in, copying it because they couldn't save files on SharePoint the right way or they couldn't do other things. We didn't have a good means of doing it that worked real effectively and transferring those. And then there were 12 handoffs where somebody would say, okay, I'm done with my part. Dave, here you go. Now you do your part, and just moving things around. So the future state, the solution, 34% drop in the number of minutes, 35% drop in the dollar amount, it costs for this. The wait time in days dropped by almost 70%, down to 3 days. The number of steps, somebody actually doing something, dropped 30%. Again, storage and filing, the handoffs, these are not major numbers. We do, I think, 6 to 8 of these a year. So it's not huge savings, huge benefit, huge numbers on there. But the solution came out where it's automated. They fill out a form and it goes out to all the people involved. It tracks in a central repository within Laserfiche the information coming back. We can run reports. They have everything documented. So if there's ever a lawsuit again, or they're following something and the opposing counsel says, what about this? Where's this at? Right here. Here's how we got it. Here's our standard process. Here's what we did. And we can follow it through everything because the auditability and tracking within Laserfiche allows that capability, right? So that's kind of this is a very neat thing, a neat tool to be able to do with Lean and Laserfiche working together and doing those. So we have the straight Laserfiche system example. We have an example of the two together, methodologies and the software, or the technology. And then this last one is just Lean, without using the technology piece, to give you an example of that. So the planning or community services department, because they moved, the HRA, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, they had some problems with their turnover. So a little background, the county owns different apartment buildings and houses. They offer subsidized housing provided for low-income families, okay? A very good thing, I think. Their concern was the turnover process. So when a tenant leaves, a new tenant is given the keys to that unit. A new family is able to move in. They have housing. It was taking on average 84 days. So 84 days for that housing, an apartment unit, house being open, vacant, nobody in there. That's not only, a family that doesn't have a place to live potentially, but that's also revenue, even if it's limited or, subsidized, there's still some revenue to the county that's being lost during that. Also, because we're not consistently hitting the guidelines set by the Housing and Urban Development Authority, they were involved in the process. They were involved in the operation. We had to do a lot more updates to them, a lot more tracking, a lot more recording of things, and just meetings. So it was resource time involved with trying to stay up to date. So the scope of this was the process of maintaining the units, doing any inspections on them, fixing them, repairing them, processing any paperwork, and then getting tenants approved, meeting the criteria to move into that housing is what that process kind of entailed. Our goal is we wanted to decrease that turnover time. Get it shorter so we can get families into housing sooner. We want to be able to meet the Minnesota HUD, the guidelines, so that we can kind of get them out of the business so they're not directly involved in every aspect of the operation for reporting, for having to be, trying to keep it correct, having to be involved. We'll leave it at that. And then the last one that, increase the revenue. Bringing in the revenue, bringing in the money to the county helps fund that program, helps keep things going. So we want to be able to do that as much as we can. So going through, talking to the people that were involved in that process, the ones who do the work every day, work with the tenants, work with the, the maintenance, the different vendors, working with them. The implemented solutions were to start an application process when they get down. So how they did it before was once somebody moved out of that unit, well, they'd go through all the maintenance, make sure everything's done, go through inspections, and then they'd start sending out flyers to get people to be approved and come in and say, hey, would you be interested in this? So we changed that to be a parallel process. As soon as somebody's moving out, they have a pool of people ready to go. So they can say, okay, you're the top 3, let's reaffirm, yep, you're good to go, and start it. So have that pool of people ready to go so they can move in, so that approved wait list. Reduce the handling and data entry of the unit and the tenant information. They were entering the same information into 3 different places. Consolidate some of those things. Make it so they're only entering the information in once. consolidate the different forms, and move out and move in inspection and maintenance form. They had 2 different forms for that one as well, just consolidating some of those things. You know, Laserfiche may be an option down the road, but for now they use their own software, which they're not real happy about. It doesn't work like they want. So as we get moving, we might have some more options. Reduce the number of handoffs and establish and document a standard process so everybody follows the same thing. So whenever there's staff turnover, everybody knows how to do the job right, how to do it the best way possible. So the results impacting those solutions. So on the top, you have the current task and then the future state. Well, we didn't actually take any of those steps, those process things out of there. However, by changing some different things around and how we do it, how they do the work, how they operate, the wait time went from an average of 84 days to the future goal of 10 days. 10 days of turnaround was the wait time that we were trying to get down to. Estimated $13,000 coming back into the county for that program, so we can help subsidize more families, help keep things going, help moving forward. But to me, this one right here, that's 88% change. Removing 70 days out of that process. To now that 70 days sooner, people are getting into houses. You know, Dave talked early on about that stakeholders, those citizen stakeholders. That's a powerful number to me. That's something where now we're getting families that need homes, people with children that need apartments or places to live. We're getting them in sooner. All right, so what's next? With Lean efforts, you know, we're continuing to develop the program. We're continuing to evolve and continuously improve ourselves. We're training and working on mentoring facilitators so we can do more events. We can be more involved throughout the whole county and get more, you know, more savings, more benefit out of this. For automating processes, we're continuing in 2015 to develop our policies, procedures, and really get Laserfiche out there for the rest of the county for the different areas and departments. You know, our deployment project plans, following that, the methodology Dave was discussing, training power users. So as we're rolling out the system to more and more departments, we have people that can create workflows, that can create forms, that can maintain the system and use it to the full advantage of what it's meant to be. And that's it for now. Any questions? Oh, Katie's gonna run around with the microphone now. She's got one. And if you guys want to ask Dave all the questions, that's just fine.
I'm just wondering how you, so you say you had 12 different departments plus the courts, how you utilize your resources the best way, because I would think that you would have 12 departments screaming their priorities at you, and how you manage that and how you would budget from year to year. I mean, do you just have a set dollar amount that you would use for the year based on things that come up throughout the year?
I think you scared him away and he's leaving.
No. I'm
The,
getting a prop.
oh, okay.
There we go, there we go.
One of the, yeah. This one's mine first.
Your turn.
One of the things that we do, so for my team, the continuous improvement team, the LEAP team, there's a lot of that demand. Come help us, come do this. And then we go out and we meet with them. We sit down and say, okay, this is what you're talking about doing for a process. This is what you want to look at. These are the different people and resources we need. These are the experts in your area that do this. And they go, oh, well, we have this implementation or this, you know, HUD is in here working with us. We don't have time for the next 4 months. Great. So we're spacing it out and we're asking questions and using that, you know, just availability of their resources in addition to our resources to plan on those things and get them done. As well as we have an overall portfolio that we use to say, okay, here's our availability. We're doing these processes, and really when we want to do this HRA process, maybe there's something that leads into that we want to do before then, so we're making sure to just manage the resources across that portfolio for, you know, to make sure everybody gets the benefit and the service they need, but we're doing things in a timely fashion so we can.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is to understand that we have, our philosophy is we don't need to do 100%, right? All right, if you have a need, we're going to try and get you 20%. We're going to try to get you 20% of the way there, and then we can circle back around and then get you another 30% and work our way up to 100%. Coming from, I have several years in development, so I know that I'll never get to 100% solution because there's not enough time or enough money to get to 100%, all right? So my business analysts and my project managers are very clear with our customers that, you know, we can get you something today and we can really help you today. Maybe it's a Kaizen event to help you reorganize and do something different that way. If it's technological, that we're gonna solve it from a technology standpoint, is Laserfiche the best option right out of the gate? Maybe, maybe not. And we're looking at all of that, all the way around. I think the other thing too is that we score every one of our projects. So when a project comes in and we create a charter for it, we have a scoring that we go through, and that helps us prioritize it. That's internal to myself and my project management staff, but then we also have a score for our customers. So if our customer, I do a lot of stuff with public safety, and they always get all the money, and they always get the highest priority, right? Because it's always officer safety. That's the big issue that I see. So what I do is I have a questionnaire that we fill out for our customers, that our customers fill out with our BAs, our business analysts, and we try to prioritize their projects as well. You know, based on all these 10 projects that we have for public safety, which is the highest one? All right, now how does that compare to, from a scoring perspective, to community services or HR, all right? And then we have a technology committee that meets on a monthly basis. And if there are any times where, you know, the sheriff is saying, no, I need this, and the director for public health is saying, no, I need this. If we can't answer that and straighten it out at the technology committee, then our county administrator steps in and helps us solve that. So, okay. That answer your question? Oh, okay.
Hey, Dave and Rob. So I had heard some customers asking questions about, you know, prioritization, other things about, you know, return on investment. And you're obviously doing that as part of the figuring out the priority. Can you talk a little bit more? I mean, I imagine that there's more things that go into it than just direct labor costs and benefits. So can you elaborate a little bit more on how excuse me, how you're calculating?
Where's your quarter? So one of the things that we're doing when we're doing our Kaizen events, we're doing some of the Lean, you know, Six Sigma events, is we take into some of the metrics I showed you. We take that into account. What is the actual staff time? What are some of those different things? But with that first one Dave showed, that big number of that $1.5 million savings, and then the $2.5 million savings for the state or other governments. So obviously staff time is one of the big things that we're looking at. Sometimes as we're automating things, one of the other, you know, kind of precursor events that led up to LEAP to, again, get that buy-in so people understood it was a Kaizen event around the employee reimbursement process. People were filling out paper forms, they were submitting them, sending them, so you have somebody filling it out, you have somebody transmit it, carrying this physical form, and then somebody else reading it and entering into a system. So they did a Kaizen event with that and said, you know what, why do we need this paper form? What if we automate this solution? So now I go online, I fill out a form online, I upload my receipt, it gets done. So instead of 2 to 3 months before I get an actual reimbursement for the expenses, within 2 weeks, I'm getting reimbursed those expenses. And with that event, they also realized that they could cut, I think it was 1.7 FTE out of finance. Now, this was not done by firing anybody or eliminating positions. It was done by attrition. So as people have retired or shifted to other areas, they've not backfilled them. But those are some of the things that we're looking at. Some of it also is, okay, if we're putting this in, you know, one of the big ones is we don't have to upgrade other systems. We don't have to pay for licensing for other systems because now, you know, there's different licensing and stuff with Laserfiche, but other systems that are outdated, instead of having 3 or 4 different systems to maybe try and do something, one system now will take that over and be able to operate with what we need to do. So there's a lot of different aspects to that. So the staffing, the time, but you know, obviously we have to have the dollars and show those numbers because the board wants to see that, and that looks great. But to me, and you know, my team a lot of times, you know, working with Dave, is telling a social worker that they don't have to skip their lunch or work through it as they work a 12-hour day. They can take 15 minutes to themselves and actually still service their clients and get people taken care of. That's powerful. You know, putting a little bit of elasticity back in their day. You know, 15 years ago, Dave slips on the ice and breaks his leg. the rest of us can kind of pick up that slack for a little bit while he's out. Something like that happens today, everybody is stretched to the breaking point where there is no elasticity. Now it's a scramble and stuff doesn't get done.
Good thing we're in California, there's no
You
ice.
should be all right.
It was -2 on Monday
Yeah.
in Rochester.
Last week we had -40 wind chill. It was wonderful. But, you know, those different things, really, that is what that buy-in, the stakeholder buy-in at the beginning was, yep, board members, we're gonna save money. We're gonna have a return on your investment. I think it was a $4.5 million loan that we got from the board out of reserves from the county. Based on the efforts that have been done with the implementation, some of the different things that we've done, other events, other Kaizen events that have happened throughout the county, you take the savings and annual savings on that out 5 years, because we figure that's about the length of the savings you can really capture. We paid that loan back in the first year and a half. So we're just gonna continue to grow from there and evolve as we need to. Any other questions? If we have time, if you guys are interested, we can go through that litigation hold process, that workflow and forms, that solution that was built, and show you how that's actually built in Laserfiche if you want. If nobody's interested, we don't have to do that. Just sit there and don't make a sound. They don't follow direction very well. Any other questions, or do you want to go through that and see it? Go through it. The boss back there is saying we should go through it. Now, I can talk this at a high level, but I didn't build it. I was involved in the Kaizen event, but the technical side of it is not my strength. So a quick overview of that solution that we built. That's entirely true.
I didn't say that out loud.
Well, I'll say it out loud. All right, so this was the litigation hold process. So the county is being sued or is going to be sued probably, and we have to track the information, find the information, notify everybody, and make sure we're tracking everything and keeping up to date. So we go through and do a current state map. You know, if you've seen the big paper on the wall with the Post-it notes all over it, that's what this is our process mapping to say, okay, how does this process work today? That's where we come up with those numbers to say, it takes 29 steps, it takes this number of people, this is how long it takes, this is the wait time. So this is, the green ones are where there's a handoff to somebody else. The orange is where we have a wait time. Just the white squares would be a task, somebody's doing something. So we identify what is the whole process. And then we come up with our future state map. Well, where we have the E is where we can use the EDMS, use Laserfiche as part of a solution potentially. The X's is steps where we just completely eliminate that step, we don't need it. The red ones are stuff that we'll still do them, but not manually. It'll be done by the system moving forward. So here's the start of the workflow. The event starts, really, the start of the event here is a form. Hey, somebody gets notified we have to do this litigation hold process, they fill out this form and hit submit, okay? It goes to the lead civil attorney for approval. If he says yes, or if he says no, this isn't qualified, this isn't it, this is not what we're gonna do, it gets rejected, somebody gets notified, and it's done. If he says yes, we need to do this, then it goes and kicks off the workflow to create the folders and initiate the reminders. So that form that's filled out, it just very simply looks like this. We have the date, the case title, which also will serve as the initial name in the folders, in the notifications that go out, the court where it's filed, the incident description, so a brief, here's what's happening, here's why this is gonna come up. The initial search words. So instead of waiting a couple days to meet with Dave's staff that has to go out and do the actual searches, it's put into this form so, well, we know Blueberries is involved. Some of his staff will now get notification right away to say, start searching on these terms, and then they'll meet and go through more things. I think Blueberries is one of the samples that was given, so that's why they're laughing back there. Inform the affected parties. So the county attorney and the IT person will already be notified. But this is to say, who else needs to know about this? Is it the deputy sergeant of the jails? Is it somebody else in human resources? Whatever it may be. So they're going to be the ones that get this notification. So from this form, Carl is still getting pushed by Rob. That's the description here that gets put in. And this form generates the creation of these folders, the folder structure, everything that they need to have over here. Probably should have picked a different one. It makes me sound mean. All right, so email generated the involved parties. It's totally realistic mostly. So this notice goes out to say, click here for information acknowledgement and acknowledge your understanding of this notice. So it gives you litigation hold. It's got the date in here. County Attorney's Office has initiated a litigation hold titled Carl is Still Getting Pushed by Rob to here involved in the following parties. And then it has the people whose names are there. Initial search terms, blueberries. So this is the one that would go to the search resources, the person to search Outlook, the Exchange server, and the different things like that on Dave's team, so they can start their work. They don't have to wait until they can schedule time with a very busy attorney in order to begin using it, or starting their work to do things. Discovery documents can be placed here. So they can immediately click on that and go to that folder and start dropping information or any documents, anything they find into that location. Now they can't see anything in there, they can only put stuff in there. The notice that gets sent out based on the initial form, so at the top of this litigation hold notice is the date from the notice, the case title, any of that incident description to give a little more background on it, and then at the bottom part, there's a button here that they can click to say, I acknowledge that I understand it, I've received this, and understand this notification. So with that, then, there's a folder that tracks that acknowledgement to say, okay, here's Carl Hunter, pending, Sam's pending, so we know who's actually acknowledged that they've read this, received this, read it, and understood it, and who is not. So this has been acknowledged. So this is all out there. Now they have a specific spot they can go to from the county attorney's office and say, who knows about this, who's acknowledged it, and who hasn't, that I need to maybe pester a little bit. After 30, 60, 90 days, 120, whatever the setting is, put as in the beginning, a notification automatically goes out to say, please take note. This is still in process. This is still ongoing. Be aware. So there's a reminder to the people that need to be involved versus the attorney having to try to remember, I think it's been 6 months or 3 months. I should probably send out a notice to make sure people are holding on to their information. Also, then they can go and update that metadata, say, here's some more information. Here's the status on these. Here's the case status. Here's where things are at. So they can keep the information updated. And then when it gets done, they click it, they finish it and say, yep, we're done. An email automatically goes out to those involved parties to say, please note, this is hereby released. You don't have to hold your information anymore. You're good to go. It's done. And then the folder, everything gets closed up in the folder and goes into records retention. I got to be less pushy, apparently. Next one then is we made sure that it was very easy for them to search and did some training on how they can search it. Apparently, though, if you look here, Sarah is way meaner than I am. That's a very quick overview of the solution that was built for that one using Laserfiche and Lean methodology to kick it off.
I think what's very fascinating about that particular example is, we only get maybe 8 of those a year, if that, and we actually just had one that started last week, and Sarah, who's on my staff, is directly responsible for making sure those searches are done and that's happening, and it kicked off, and because we just put it into production a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Yeah, so, and we were able to get started with it, using it right away, so it was a great way to introduce our county attorney's office to the tool, so definitely a success.
Any other questions? We have 9 minutes. We can just sit here. I can't see in the back. Anything? No?
All right, if there are no other questions, thank you all for attending. Feel free to stick around and ask questions to the speakers individually if you'd like. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.